difficult process. The threat of terrorism raises the stakes.
I was getting ready to go home, but it was 3 hours later where I actually made it. I was constantly going over to the emergency room.
The first wave, we had probably 30 or 40 cultures of stool. The second wave, we had hundreds of them, and around the laboratory they were 6 high and all the way back to the counter. Also, the hospital filled up with patients. We had all the beds were full. We had patients in the halls. Sounded like a war zone.
It wasn't a war zone. It was a small town in Wasco County, Oregon in 1984. Suddenly, a lot of people were sick.
The patients would come to see the doctors. They had severe abdominal pain, they were vomiting, they had diarrhea.
There were hundreds.
We communicated with the doctors and worked real close with ER. What we found was that, well, these people had eaten at a restaurant. Mom was on a diet, and maybe she had all-you-can-eat salad bar. One of the kids had a hamburger, he didn't get sick. But every one of these people, all the way down the line, it was the salad someplace along the line.
3 years earlier, in 1981, a religious group moved onto a ranch a couple of hours from Portland.
They were an object of great interest to people, and I think they were viewed very benignly. No one really took offense at them initially. They were just sort of interested. This is this guru who's touting free sex, and that was interesting to people.
The Bhagwan Sri Rajnashee was their leader. His philosophy was live in the moment. Don't think about yesterday or tomorrow.
Understanding means freedom. And if your wife goes to some man one day, just the weekend, you will not feel offended.
They came into this ranch that had basically been overgrazed, overused, with immense amounts of capital, and started sort of building Woodstock Nation right out there in the sagebrush. And then they sort of started trying to get their own way on every single issue, and relations deteriorated.
The Rajneeshees were thinking about the future, in particular about taking over the local government.
There were rumors going around that the Rajneeshees were seen in some of the restaurants. As a matter of fact, I was eating at one of the restaurants downtown with my in-laws and my wife, and 2 individuals came in, walked around the salad bar twice like they're looking to see what's in the salad bar today, and then they left. That particular restaurant later on was hit with an outbreak.
We moved from just doing our jobs properly to what's going on here.
We ran out of bacteriology media right along, and we overwhelmed the state of Oregon lab by sending them all these cultures for identification and for confirmation. They called us and said, don't send us any more, we're swamped down here, we can't handle it. There was a lot of information from us that was going out to other public agencies, and there wasn't a whole lot coming back.
The townspeople were getting more and more concerned about the Rajneeshees.
They hired Greyhound buses, like 120 Greyhound buses, and sort of went to the center of many cities all over the United States and scooped up people off the streets, homeless people, and said, come and live with us at our beautiful commune in Oregon. And the underlying line was, and register to vote and help us achieve control of the county.
I got something here I want you to look at.
During the outbreak, pathologists Elton and Wright were becoming increasingly worried that an invisible enemy was loose in their community.
I did call my mom and dad who live in town. I have family. And I says, I feel that something's going on. because we're seeing the same strain of salmonella, and there's people that are eating at restaurants don't go out to eat. And he says, well, I just went down to a restaurant here in town, such and such a restaurant, and they and a couple days later they came down with Salmonella typhimurium. Every one of those people that were infected had Salmonella typhimurium, every one of them.
Nobody thought when they began to investigate this outbreak of gastrointestinal disease from salad bars that it was the result of an intentional act of terrorism, and that this particular religious cult had decided that they wanted to make people sick enough that they'd stay home and not vote so they could win an election in their town.
Yeah, you just put it in there, put it in a squirt gun, and go squirt it on the salads, on the lettuce. And at the end of the day, or whatever, the salad's thrown away, so it's pretty tough to even be able to prove this.
The Centers for Disease Control investigated the outbreak for several months. They concluded that 10 salad bars had been infected, but they blamed the food handlers.
And that's the way it stood until the fall of 1985, when somebody got a vial of Salmonella typhimurium out of the Rajnashee Medical Corporation, and it was the identical bacteria that had caused the Salmonella epidemic.
This was the first documented act of biological terrorism in the United States. The Rajneshees set up a medical company and got the Salmonella virus through the mail, no questions asked. No one died, but 751 people got sick. The Rajneshees lost the election. When the medical mystery was finally solved, 2 cult members were jailed. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh died a few years later. This was one